Today we are facing some of the greatest challenges of our lives, from our health to political unrest, the environment, financial uncertainty, and the nation's racial divide. Welcome to Bill Myers Inspires. My idea for this show was to invite guests and get the conversation started, to take a deep dive into the issues that impact our world with an eye to exploring solutions. And we encourage our listeners to look within themselves to take decisive action to make a positive difference. Welcome to Bill Myers Inspires. I'm your host, Bill Myers. And today, the topic of our show is Memphis, Justice Delayed. David versus Goliath goes 15 rounds. And I want to, we will definitely get into that and what that all means here in just a moment. But my guest today is Justin J. Pearson from Memphis, Tennessee. And this is his second time on the show. And the first time was just David versus Goliath. So you can imagine that there is a continuum if we're suggesting 15 rounds. And he will fill us in on the details of all of that here in just a moment. But first, I would like to share with you a bit about Justin. Justin J. Pearson is the fourth son of 5 boys born to teenage parents in Memphis, Tennessee. Justin J. graduated from Mitchell High School as valedictorian and Bowdoin College in 2017, majoring in both government and legal studies and education studies. He currently lives in Memphis, but works at the headquarters of Year Up in Boston, Massachusetts. He is focused on social, racial, and economic justice as special assistant to the CEO of Year Up, a national program helping 18 to 24-year-olds gain training and entry-level jobs with corporate partners such as Bank of America, Facebook, and Salesforce. Justin J. is also one of the leaders of Memphis Community Against the Pipeline, MCAP, which is a Black-led environmental justice organization seeking to end the racism and injustices in Memphis with the stopping of the Byhalia Connection pipeline. Justin has an unwavering commitment to justice and the pursuit of opportunity for all people. Please help me welcome my guest today, Justin J. Pearson. Welcome, Justin.
Thank you so much, Bill. I am fortunate and grateful to be back here with you and to talk about this important topic, because indeed the battle and the fight still goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were last here on the show at the end of February. And I know that you guys had just launched your website and several other things, but I would say in the history of this movement that you are engaged in, this battle that you are engaged in, that was several chapters ago. A lot has happened since then, and that's why I wanted you to come back onto the show, because a lot has happened, and I want the audience to be aware of the various progress that has happened and the delays that have also happened, and then where we are at this time and what to look forward to in the short-term future with regards to the activities going on there in Memphis. So I want to start from the beginning, just so that the audience can be clued in as to what is this all about, for the benefit of those who did not catch you during your first visit here. So if you would explain to us the conflict and then the need to come together and to address this as a major concern of the Black community in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah. So again, thank you so much for having me and being able to speak about this very important and critical topic of environmental justice and environmental racism. What we have happening in Memphis is one of the most significant cases of environmental racism and environmental justice happening in our nation today. There are 2 companies, Valero Energy Corporation and Plains All American, 2 multi-billion-dollar oil companies that are seeking to bring oil from Cushing, Oklahoma, down through Memphis and Mississippi to send to the Gulf near St. James, also known as Cancer Alley. And they're doing this for one reason: greed. They only want to make more money, exploit folks who are lower income and Black folks in order to do this. And we're resisting. We were called by this company when asked why they chose this path. They said, well, we took basically the point of least resistance. And now we are showing them we are the point of resilience. We have a community in Memphis, Tennessee, that was founded shortly after slavery that is being impacted potentially by this pipeline. We're talking about a community where their average income is about $18,000 a year, 97% African American. And it's atop the Memphis sand aquifer, which is where over 1 million people get their drinking water. And to include one more thing, this is also the most seismically active area east of California. And so there are a lot of reasons why this project is perpetuating a history of injustice that this community and our community has experienced for far too long. And now we collectively, locally, at the state level, at the national level, are fighting and resisting to protect our community and to stop the terror of environmental racism that we have been experiencing for far too long.
Yeah, you've got your work cut out for you, and you know, and I've been tracking this progress since before we actually met. And again, I want to give a shout out to Mr. Tim Guinea, who connected us, and Tim was on the show discussing racism and climate change. So he was the one who introduced me to you, and I'm grateful to him for that. And so yeah, Tim's great. But so take us now from where we were in late February, because again, you had, I mean, I guess I would sort of characterize it as hundreds of people sort of gathering at that point, which now is certainly thousands of people, and the reach has just continued to expand. So I know we're going to be coming up on a break here shortly, but I want to start this story so that we can really understand and appreciate, and so that we may join, you know, in whatever ways we can and support the valiant effort of what's going on with MCAP and supporting our people in Memphis.
Definitely. Well, before break, here's what's happened since February when we were just getting our website started. We've gotten over 35,000 more people signing the petition.
Wow.
We've had several rallies, including with former Vice President Gore, who also leads the Climate Reality Project, who've become great national partners of ours. The Reverend Dr. William J. Barber, who leads the National Poor People's Campaign, has come to Memphis and rallied with us to protect our water, to prevent environmental racism, and to encourage our city council and county commission to do what they can locally to stop this pipeline project and protect the people. We've learned a lot since then, that there's a lot of local power that can be used in order to stop this project and also do and to fill regulatory gaps that have existed for quite a long time. And so since February, we've worked with our city councilors, led by Councilman Dr. Jeff Warren and Edmund Ford Sr., to create and craft legislation that protects the Memphis sand aquifer as well as promotes environmental justice. We've worked with our county commission to stop the sale of county-owned property to Byhalia Pipeline, and we're successful in that in a 9-2 vote. And so we're continuing to see momentum build, and we had momentum building quite significantly leading into budget season. And that's where the delay comes from. Our city councilors, our county commissioners have paused, as it were, during budget season, and that'll soon be over. And so our movement does not pause, and we're happy and really fortunate to say that Vice President Gore has talked with President Biden about the Byhalia Pipeline, that other news outlets, particularly when talking about the end of Keystone XL, have included the Byhalia Pipeline in one of the movements for justice as it relates to the ending of fossil fuel infrastructure, as well as communities that are fighting crude oil pipelines. And so the momentum and the movement is continuing to build, and we need support from locally, regionally, and nationally to win this.
Wow. That's a mouthful, Justin. You just laid it out. I really now want to back up and let you know we've got about 50 more minutes to have a conversation. Now
Very good.
So we're going to have to unpack all of that.
Wonderful.
Because I know that there are a number of significant agencies, individuals who have stepped in, and supported and brought their legal expertise and all kinds of things that have really come in and helped shore up this effort. And so we'll dig into those details as we sort of continue to proceed. But so explain to us very quickly, what are the downsides of such an effort moving forward? I think we just lost our video. Okay, here we go. We are back, sort of. So we're experiencing technical difficulties. Please stay on.
Still sound great.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we can just talk or sing songs, I guess it would be okay. But yeah, I think that there is something, again, that I would really like to get into, but I think this is a good time for us to take a break so we can sort of, address some of our technical difficulties. But again, you are listening to Memphis, Justice Delayed, David versus Goliath, goes 15 rounds. You're listening to Bill Myers Inspires right here on the Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be back with our special guest, Mr. Justin J. Pearson, in just a moment.
Today, we are facing some of the greatest challenges of our lives, from our health to political unrest, the environment, financial uncertainty, and the nation's racial divide. Tune in every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Bill Myers Inspires, as he and his guests take a deep dive into the issues that impact our world with an eye to exploring solutions. Emmy Award-winning actor Bill Myers is an accomplished actor, jazz musician, filmmaker, writer, educator, and speaker. As a biracial man who's both black and white, Bill leverages his background, talent, and voice through creativity, compassion, and connection as activism for social justice to focus on uniting the divide and compelling change. Bill Myers Inspires encourages listeners to look within themselves and take decisive action to make a positive difference. For more information, visit his website, billmyersinspires.com, and sign in for the latest news and updates.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
You're listening to Bill Myers Inspires here on the Inspired Choices Network. We're here every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for joining us. And now, let's get back to the conversation. We are back. You're listening to Bill Myers Inspires, and I'm here with my special guest today, Mr. Justin J. Pearson. Justin, once again, let's backtrack just a little bit and see. Explain to us some of the partners, some of the different agencies, organizations during this segment as we continue on, because I think that that's really notable. I mean, whenever there are other bodies of people that join the cause, not just individuals, but all of a sudden organizations coming together and shoring up your efforts there. So yeah, walk us through some of that, because I find that very fascinating.
Well, I remind folks, this movement would just be a guy with an afro screaming and yelling if it wasn't for a lot of help and a lot of hands that have made this work possible. And so the fact that we are where we are, and we've still got a ways to go to the point of the title of 15 rounds, but we're really fortunate that we do have so much support. And it started locally, right? It's the neighborhood associations of Boxtown, Westwood, West Junction, Alcee Ball neighborhood associations that really have given us the validity to be able to advocate on behalf of the community by making sure we have that direct connection and representatives from South Memphis and from the broader Memphis community who are fighting alongside us. That way, the voice of the people is always centered. And our actions and any act that we take, anything that we do, always goes back to that center. And that's really crucial for the work that we're doing, which is so important. And it's important that we build a coalition of support to sustain our movement. The reality is we can get tired and we don't know everything. And we're really fortunate that we have some local coalition partners who have been extremely helpful. Protect Our Aquifer, Sierra Club of Tennessee. They have been extreme co-partners in this work, and they fought for environmental justice in other ways. And so there's some institutional knowledge that they have that have helped to catalyze our work moving forward. And then there's a broader group of people from around the country. Some of those thousands and thousands who we've garnered over the past several months who now know about this fight have really said, how can I help? And we've invited a number of them in to support our work and to help catalyze the voices of Boxtown, to be sounding boards for the people in Westwood, to make sure that this issue and that this fight is not viewed solely as Memphis's fight. It is not viewed solely as South Memphis's fight, but this is a fight in our country for justice at a time when we are speaking a lot about racial justice and we're speaking a lot about environmental justice. We have to look to places like Memphis and say, what can we do? And we're really fortunate that some of those folks, such as the Climate Reality Project, have stood up and raised their hand and said, what can we do to be an asset for the community? And I had an opportunity to speak at the Leaders Summit for Climate Reality, helping to really lift up and elevate the voices of people like Marcella Shepard and Batzel Booker, who are in South Memphis and lived there their whole lives, and they've been fighting their whole lives. And so in a coalition where you have the voices of people like former Vice President Gore and that entire team, which is an amazing team, helping to support our efforts, it helps to move our work forward. We work with the Poor People's Campaign, Reverend Dr. William J. Barber II, and the local group with Reverend Gordon Myers and Reverend Dr. Alvin O'Neill Jackson, who's the executive director there. They too have helped to elevate the conversation as we think about interlocking injustices of systemic poverty and systemic racism and ecological devastation. You have to realize, and we realize as a part of this work, that we're not doing it alone. And they help to bring a perspective that says, look, when we were called the path of least resistance, what they were really saying is this Black community, this community of lower wealth, this community that has been disinvested in, this community that has been overpolluted, is the place that we can go to capitalize on in order for our own billions and billions of dollars in profit, about roughly $8.5, $9 billion of profit, while the people in the community receive nothing and risk everything. Those are two really big national partners, but we're really fortunate to have folks like the Hip Hop Caucus and Friends of the Earth and some of those other groups really supporting our efforts. And I'd be remiss not to mention, before, this was back in October, about a month when we got started, saying we need to do something. Breach Collective out of Portland,
Wow.
Oregon,
Wow.
said, how can we help? Right, like that was the first moment when I realized we are doing something big here, and their board and their team has been extraordinary in helping us build this movement.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I wanted to you mentioned Climate Reality, and as I had mentioned before, Tim Guinea, Tim recognized my interest was sincere in learning about how racism and climate change are connected. Again, I remember sending him a question that said, I'm doing this show on racism in America. I'm really diving into it. And I said, well, Tim, is there a connection between racism and climate change. And I'll never forget the one word he sent back, which was overwhelmingly. Mm-hmm. And but during that time, and after speaking with you and my participation also in your movement, as you know, from afar, but supporting it and pushing along and monitoring the goings on, Tim had been sending me a note and said, you know, you should consider climate reality. You should consider getting the training in climate reality. Mm-hmm. And so I did. And this last session, which was April, I did, and I completed that. And I did see that you were being featured there as a guest, and so I was very proud to see you being pulled into that gathering, because that was a pretty massive. I mean, I don't know how many thousands of people were on that, 20,000, 27,000 or something. So it was pretty massive. So I am a certified climate reality leader. Thank you, Vice President Gore. And so I'm proud to stand in that. So, but also, you know, you mentioned you kind of mentioned a moment ago about certain sectors or what all the negative outcomes could be. And I think it would be nice to take a moment to really identify the risk. We've talked about it being billions of dollars on a community that doesn't benefit. We've talked about the idea that the economic piece. We've talked about the fact that these are low income folk, and we've talked about the potential of this pipeline going over the aquifer that you have and all of that. But what are the types of outcomes? What are the outcomes that occur when something like this does go through a community? Because I'm not sure that everybody can, you know it off the top of your head because you've been dealing with it. But I think it really is important to remind people what truly is at risk and the level of that risk. So if you would shed some light on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll talk about two things in particular. One is universal. If you have a crude oil pipeline built behind your house, your property value decreases from between 5 and 40%. And that's true wherever you decide to live. No one wants to have a crude oil pipeline operating at 1,500 PSI behind their property. But when you try to sell your home, or when you buy a home in that area, right, it's part of the paperwork that's required to inform people of this. And so there's an immediate financial impact on your property values. And that's whether you're richer, whether you're poorer. And when you think about it, Bill, that we're talking about folks whose houses might be worth $50,000 or so dollars, their property value is declining more than that, right? Perpetuates this terrible history, right, of what was supposed to be wealth building actually having a more negative ramification, right? And I can't understate what's really specific about what's happening in Memphis, that we're extraordinarily unique, and that 100% of our drinking water comes from groundwater. We get nothing from surface water. And so the number of chemicals that are used to filter our water and things like that is significantly less than you'll see anywhere else in the country. And it's because of this aquifer about as big as Lake Michigan, you can imagine, underneath our feet. And so because of our uniqueness in that regard, this pipeline, which is being built right atop the aquifer and through what's known as the Davis well field, which is operated by our local utility, where water is pulled up from the aquifer. They're trying to build right through there. Here's what we've learned since the last time you and I spoke publicly about this. On the proposed path of the pipeline, new research has come out that there are 2 breaches in the clay layer between the clay and our groundwater. So when a spill happens, and we know that according to research by Dr. Douglas J. Kostler, that 25 million, 1 pound of crude oil can contaminate 25 million gallons of drinking water. When that spill happens, it will destroy our ability to drink the water that's literally beneath our feet that we have inherited through good grace, not because we did anything for it. It's going to contaminate that in perpetuity for future generations as well. And there's no way to really clean, unfortunately, crude oil out of the drinking water. That's over 1 million people that we're talking about here.
Wow.
And we know this today, right? This isn't something we're going to learn after the oil spills. It is a problem today. We have the research today. Everything is telling us not to allow this to happen, not to do this, not to allow this pipeline to persist and to exist in our county and in our city. And we have to act now in order to prevent it from happening. Because of our uniqueness, it requires unique solutions, and it requires unique level of action and activity from local leaders, from state leaders, and from national leaders to prevent this pipeline from going through.
So what are so besides the fact that it could ruin your the drinking water for 1 million people, what other outcomes, negative outcomes happen when this, I'm just very curious, because I think it's really important for people to really understand the multitude of risks, and what you're fighting for, you know what I mean? So are there any other types of outcomes that happen, exposures or what have you, that have effects?
Yeah.
Negative
one of the things that I would think about is sort of the what we're fighting right now in court is called eminent domain. Right now in Tennessee, we believe the law says we cannot allow crude oil pipelines to take people's land. And this is going a little bit into generational traumas that have been experienced in the Black African American community in particular. And so I don't know if this loss is specific to what you were thinking. But the reality is right now, this company is going around saying, we can take your land and take your property. We can go to any landowner in South Memphis or Tennessee and say that if we want something that we want your property, even for our private use, we can take it. Now, this is unfortunately all too familiar in Black African American folklore and history, and what gets passed down, right?
Right.
Folks have loved ones whose property is taken by white folks who just wanted the field. And now we're having a company saying they have the legal right to do so. And so one of the big losses that we're a risk that we're hoping to prevent is the taking of people's land by private companies for private benefit. And we are fortunate that this July 9th, Judge Felicia Corbin Johnson is going to say whether or not these corporations have the right to take people's land and property. And one more thing, and I know we're going to have to go to a break soon, but more crude oil being pumped into an oil refinery, which is nearby as well, does produce more toxins into the air. And we know in this community that the cancer risk is already 4 times higher than the national average. And so them getting 400,000 barrels of more oil means more oil being or running through the refinery, meaning more toxins produced in the air, leading to more death in the community that already suffers under the weight of so much pollution. 17 toxic release inventory facilities already.
Wow. Yeah, I just think it's very important, again, because I think that in the battle of all of this, sometimes we overstep past that fundamental, because we addressed that from the beginning. That's why we came together. But I think just for the benefit of the audience, it's great to remind what you're up against, beside the powerful oil company just sort of muscling their way through, and the insult of path of least resistance and all that. I mean, and people losing land, but I think that those health implications are significant, and then ultimately that's where the real rubber meets the road, because this stuff kills people. I mean,
Right.
which
Yeah.
means that kind of risk, it becomes a life and death matter.
Yeah.
So I think that that's really, really important. So I do appreciate you taking a moment to walk us through those risks. And I will we will dive in a little bit deeper here in the next segment, but we are coming up on a break, and so I'm going to take that break right now. You are listening to Bill Myers Inspires, and today we're talking about Memphis, justice delayed. David versus Goliath goes 15 rounds with my partner in Memphis, Tennessee, Mr. Justin Pearson. We'll be back in just a moment.
Solutions. Emmy Award-winning actor Bill Myers is an accomplished actor, jazz musician, filmmaker, writer, educator, and speaker. As a biracial man who's both black and white, Bill leverages his background, talent, and voice through creativity, compassion, and connection as activism for social justice to focus on uniting the divide and compelling change. Bill Myers Inspires encourages listeners to look within themselves and take decisive action to make a positive difference. For more information, visit his website, billmyersinspires.com, and sign in for the latest news and updates.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store. You're listening to Bill Myers Inspires here on the Inspired Choices Network. We're here every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for joining us. And now, let's get back to the conversation. Welcome back. You are listening to Bill Myers Inspires with my guest, Justin J. Pearson. And we are talking today about Memphis, justice delayed. And so before we were on the break, we were covering some of the risks, health risks and loss of property. All kinds of things. And so what I want to do now is focus in on we talked about some of the organizations that have joined you in this fight. And now I want to talk about some of the amazing individuals who have stepped forward and offered their support towards this cause. I mean, certainly we covered Vice President Al Gore and the Climate Reality organization, and you mentioned that he has gone and spoken directly to President Biden about this issue and has engaged conversation on that end. But what other folks have stepped in and sort of brought some more attention to the cause? Mm-hmm. It's a pretty impressive roster, but I want you to spill those beans.
No, we're really blessed that this issue is getting the necessary attention to elevate it to thousands of people, and also to really millions of people, and to escalate it within government, locally, mm-hmm. at the state level, and nationally, to continue to help us to garner support as we resist this terribly unjust project. And so you do have Vice President Gore, Dr. Barber, Dr. Liz Theo Harris, all the way to, Justin Timberlake, who is a son of Memphis, in fact, and shared our rallies and information about the Byhalia Pipeline on his Instagram, and advocated, for the city to stop this project. And so, lots of actors and folks who we really is humbled by the outpouring of support in those ways, and in different ways, right? More local people who have said, I want to volunteer more seriously. I want to engage in this fight more. They work together, right? It is a lot of work that happens locally that gets recognized nationally, that helps to push our movement forward. And that's really what we're able to see. And so it's a lot of work of people on the ground that gets Justin Timberlake in the movement, right? It's a lot of people's work that gets extraordinary celebrities to participate with us, from Danny Glover to Jane Fonda, and more.
Yeah. And that's an amazing turnout of the celebrity community, because they don't, they have to kind of pick and choose where they lay it, put their name on things. So I find it to be incredible that they have willingly and stepped in with this effort that's going on in Memphis, because I think that, just as you said, it's really not just a matter of what's going on there locally. It truly is a national issue, and certainly the movement and the timing of all of this on the heels of course, Black Lives Matter and all these sorts of things, which has brought the awareness and the topical nature of Black people and the status and their care and treatment in this nation to the forefront. So this is all sort of the timeliness of what's going on. It's incredible. So I applaud you for putting your voice to this thing and all the energy. I see so many of the clips, and I know that you have also been covered in other major sort of news outlets. So tell us about that as well, because that's a part of it, your journey and those people, those networks and whatnot. It would have to be a story, again, significant enough to get on their radar, and it has been on their radar. And so would you share with us a little bit about that journey as well, because that's significant for people to know?
Sure. And you're very kind. And it's what we do together. It truly is. What we are able to accomplish is much more significant than what I could accomplish as an individual. And I am immensely grateful to the co-founders and to the hundreds of volunteers who keep investing time and energy and effort to, whether you're liking a post, sharing a post, watching those videos as you do, Bill, and attending the rallies, and then communicating with our elected officials. It all matters to helping us keep the awareness on the issue and get us to a resolution. Because God willing, we don't have to keep fighting this in perpetuity. We're going to win this. And so I do want to acknowledge that. And to your point, the murder of George Floyd was a catalyst for us recognizing the experience of Black life, not only in its relationship with police and police brutality in our country, but also Black life in a myriad of other ways, whether that be healthcare, as we look at the global pandemic we're experiencing, or environment, which we're talking about here. The experience that Black folks and people of color are having, especially Indigenous folks, is very different than white people in this country, particularly white, wealthier folks. I can tell you a lot of lower wealth white folks are dealing with coal and coal ash and black lung and a lot of the same terrible incidences of environmental injustice that we see in predominantly Black lower wealth communities. And so there's some intersections in our fight for injustice too. But the last year has really elevated the conversation about Black life in a myriad of spaces that it needed to happen. Whether that be healthcare or the environment. And we are, I have to tell you, I don't want to say beneficiaries, but without the lynching of George Floyd, I don't think we would be here having this conversation in the way that we are, nor would it have gotten the attention that I think it has. And we are fortunate for that with Gayle King and her show in the morning, which we were able to be on, talking about eminent domain, talking about the water, and speaking truth to the cause and the situation that's happening in Memphis. We were, on the same show, Discovery Channel, with Vice President Kamala Harris, who I tell you, she had our talking points when she was speaking, to
awesome.
highlight the struggle in South Memphis, which is just extraordinary to go from the quote unquote path of least resistance to being on the Discovery Channel for millions of people to watch and to see what's happening. That is only God can craft such beautiful things to happen to this movement. And we're fortunate because it really has elevated what is going on here to levels that we could not have anticipated.
Yeah. It's a righteous cause. And I think that is really wonderful. Again, those, it's amazing. This reminds me of, Dr. King's quote, you don't have to see the whole staircase. Mm-hmm. You just take the first step.
Yeah.
And I think that what you have just described is a perfect example, is that when we take that first step, then that would lead to our second, third, fourth. But when we're walking, particularly with purpose, on purpose, I think it makes all the difference in the world. And other people are able to recognize, the truth and the sincerity and the righteousness in the cause itself. And you're also correct in acknowledging that it's not just you. And in fact, I want to take a minute and have you acknowledge your other co-founders of the MCAP organization, because I just think it's important to always lift them up as well. So, yeah.
Most definitely. And what's important to note is most movements that are successful led by women, especially Black women, and early on, Kizzy Jones helped to co-found, and Kathy Robinson is co-founder of MCAP as well. And Kathy, we were down in Nashville and we were able to talk, has been able to remain engaged. And it is so important that we acknowledge the place of co-founders of Black women in these spaces and in these movements. And now there are two more folks who've joined kind of our core team, Rosalind and Angela, who live in South Memphis now and are working to do the volunteering and working to do the communications, right? Like it's important to acknowledge and recognize those voices and those stories and those experiences, because it humbles us to this work that can oftentimes, go to the guy that's at the head.
Right. No, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I give big love, big love to the folks, who are giving of themselves and are equally committed and are really the machine a lot of times underneath the surface. You know what I mean? Right. They are the ones keeping this whole thing, driving it, and I think that's so huge. And so welcome to the two that have joined the core team. I mean, that's awesome as well. I mean, so, and did you write some sort of rule that they had to be women that came in? See, you're the only guy standing here. So, I mean, so it's like, okay, but no, I think that's wonderful. I think that's absolutely wonderful, man. And Yeah, exactly.
Right. I mean,
Female power required.
there you go. There you go.
It.
It is true. I do have a level of intentionality about it, as we sort of continue this forward. And, it's a volunteer board, it's volunteer work, and life is happening, and so
Right.
recognizing that life's happening for Kizzy, who has children, life's happening for Kathy. And it's important that we let people rest as they need to, and also have good energy and a good team, a strong team that can help move us forward as we go into this next phase. And so I am always on the lookout for people smarter than me. And I know that the experiences of Black women in our communities are just imperative to have in a room if we're going to make the right decisions and choices. And so I'm really excited about Angela and Rosalind's work.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So tell me about where we are now and what is coming up. I mean, so you said there was a delay for budget season. How convenient. But now that is coming to a close, what is the date on the calendar now? Where are we headed?
Full throttle to July 6th. City Council vote on ordinance to protect the Memphis Sand Aquifer and promote environmental justice, as well as a pipeline setback, 1,500 feet pipeline setback. July 6th, both of those are going to be before the City Council. The first one to protect the aquifer, that's going to be the first reading. We revised it, updated it, got a lot of check marks from across the city, including from our largest employer, FedEx. And so that'll be up July 6th, and then will be the second reading of a 1,500-foot pipeline setback zoning ordinance that stops them from being by houses and churches and schools, which would also have serious ramifications for this pipeline too.
Wow. So it's coming up. So we're going to start the drum roll now, because
that's right.
It's on. It's
on.
Yeah. So that's incredible. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be back in just a moment. You're listening to Bill Myers Inspires on the Inspired Choices Network, and today we're talking about Memphis, Justice Delayed, with my special guest, Justin J. Pearson. We'll be back in just a moment.
Today, we are facing some of the greatest challenges of our lives, from our health to political unrest, the environment, financial uncertainty, and the nation's racial divide. Tune in every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Bill Myers Inspires, as he and his guests take a deep dive into the issues that impact our world with an eye to exploring solutions. Emmy Award-winning actor Bill Myers is an accomplished actor, jazz musician, filmmaker, writer, educator, and speaker. As a biracial man who's both Black and white, Bill leverages his background, talents, and voice through creativity, compassion, and connection as activism for social justice to focus on uniting the divide and compelling change. Bill Myers Inspires encourages listeners to look within themselves and take decisive action to make a positive difference. For more information, visit his website, billmyersinspires.com, and sign in for the latest news and updates.
You're listening to Bill Myers Inspires, here on the Inspired Choices Network. We're here every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for joining us. And now, let's get back to the conversation. We are back, and you're listening to Bill Myers Inspires with my guest today, Justin J. Pearson. So, Justin, my question to you is, what can we do as a listening audience? What can we do at this time to support and engage the effort in Memphis?
One, thank you for the question. You've got amazing listeners who many I know are already engaged, and it's going to be consistent pressure on the elected officials of Memphis and Shelby County to create justice. It's important that they recognize There are tens of thousands of voters right here in this county and city who care about this legislation. And it is also important that they know there are people around the country and the world who are dedicated to this cause just as well, because we realize that what is affecting Memphis will have ramifications for projects across the country. And so if you go to memphiscap.org, that's memphiscap.org, you can take action. You can send an email to the Memphis City Council asking that they pass the 1,500-foot pipeline setback and that they pass legislation, the first of its kind, to protect Memphis's drinking water and aquifer and to promote environmental justice by ensuring hazardous projects like this don't go in communities already overburdened by pollution, already overburdened by fossil fuel infrastructure. And you can reach out to our county commissioners and let them know to pass the 1,500-foot pipeline setback in a joint way. We're trying to create a joint ordinance that stops pipelines from going behind people's houses, stops them from going behind folks' churches and religious facilities and parks as well. And so there is the acts for justice sometimes is watching the Facebook Live, which you can do Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern as we go live at a rally. And it is also that civic muscle and building that civic muscle and engagement, which is also imperative by reaching out to elected officials and tell them where you're from and say that you've heard about it and that you care about what we're doing here and that you're supporting MCAP and our cause.
That's awesome. So we can find the list of the city council members on the MCAP website?
That's right. That is exactly right. memphiscap.org, and you can go to take action, and we have their information there. In the next week or so, we're going to have it one click. You'll be able to send an automatic email. We're trying to continue to improve our processes, but you can access their emails, Twitters at this point in time. And if you think it is not insignificant, it makes a difference. I promise you, it makes a difference when they hear from people from across the country, when they hear from people across the city and county. It makes a difference because they know this matters. And this is one of the most significant issues that we are facing as a city and as a county in modern history, I would argue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's powerful stuff. So you had mentioned that you have a Facebook coming up on a Facebook Live coming up. What is it?
Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern. We'll have a rally, and you can join via Facebook Live at Memphis Community Against the Pipeline -MCAP. Memphis Community Against the Pipeline -MCAP. And you can join our Facebook group too.
Okay. So the Facebook address or the Facebook page is where we need to go to in order to
watch the rally.
Yes. Okay. Man, that's great stuff. Well, Justin, you are the man. And now
trying to be like you.
Man, look here. I had to go back and pull up some old photos to find my Afro days because you were shaming me so bad. When I looked up,
you look great,
man. Look, I had to send you one for just to let you know that I know what it's into, and
yeah,
I'm appreciating what you're doing, and we are putting the band back together, and
there we go, reclaiming it,
absolutely. So I've been having, I have a little technical difficulty today with my camera doesn't want to act right, but I'm just going to stay with you here. And I think that, again, I wish you all the best and send much love and energy to the good folks of Memphis as they, again, come into this final lap on this struggle. I hope. I mean, is there a possibility they could delay this thing again? I mean, I hope not. I hope there's a point when you can't keep kicking the can down the road, you ran out of road.
Exactly. Because no more delaying. It's time that we create justice and that we make it happen for the people in this city because we deserve it. We deserve the protection of our water. We deserve the protection of our property. We deserve the protection of our community. And ensuring that safety is the responsibility of the people who represent us and the people we elected. I'm grateful to be here with you, Bill, and I thank you for making the time for MCAP today.
Oh man, it is my pleasure. And I'm with you guys. I support the efforts there in Memphis, and I wish you all the best in the coming days, sir.
Thank you. Let's do this.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right, my friend.
So thank you for tuning in today to Bill Myers Inspires, and we will see you here next week. Have a great week. Thank you for spending your afternoon right here with us at Bill Myers Inspires. Remember, we're here every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Inspired Choices Network. Remember to take time this week to take a breath and look within yourself and figure out how you can make a positive difference in this world. Spread the word, and we'll see you here next Friday. Have a wonderful week.